So
Yeah. All right. Hit the button. And we are live.
I am. Yeah, it's actually recording.
You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
I'm Nathan.
And yeah, before our special episode, we have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/slash Greed Factory. You can now purchase our Verhoeven Effect t-shirt. So it is there.
You can live the adventure with us. Much like the famous conspiracy theories that rule our country now, you can have your own Verhoeven Effect art if you want to.
Now, I have the shirt in black, because that's how I like it. But like the shirts from Pro Wrestling, the same company that does Pro Wrestling tees, like black t-shirts, the way they have to put the ink on them, like they can, if you wash and dry them, they can like start to crack over time. So I recommend to just air dry them, but they should be fine washing. Because like this is the same. Their white tees are almost bulletproof because this is from the same company, and like you can wash these forever and they'll fade, but they won't crack. But all the black t-shirts, because of how it prints on there, it's because it prints rather than a stain or whatever. So, if you're gonna wear our t-shirts a lot of time, just let you know.
Yeah, just air dry them. I mean, they won't go. My American Greed Factory shirt never had a problem because you're not. I mean, if you want to buy 15 of them and wear them every day, great.
We do have American Greed Factory in a white t-shirt, so if you want a bulletproof one, you get that.
Yeah.
But I like the black t-shirts just look better, especially for bigger people. So, I always like to make black t-shirts. So.
Yeah, me too. I'm a dark shirt guy because like Predator camouflage, you don't realize how fat I really am. It's just shifting panels of darkness.
It needs to hide the danger.
Yeah. The danger to me.
So we have our very special episode. We have Event Horizon, the 1997 movie, which this is kind of picked this because Nathan always has kind of a theory about this movie where it's like a half good movie. So.
Yeah, it's half of the best movie you've ever seen. If you're into sci-fi, I mean, this movie has everything I like a dark atmosphere, sci-fi, a bunch of bogus science, and I'm like a bogus science guy because I'm not going to bother to learn about it. It's like, yeah, that sounds cool. We're there. We're just and it also has it does build tension well. It does a good job, and then about halfway through, pretty much right after DJ the guy throws himself out of the airlock, this movie just it doesn't just jump off the rails, it abandons them into infinity and just goes in some strange unnecessary direction.
Which I guess the reason it could be there was a weird ending. Apparently there's like some lost 2-hour cut of this movie.
Yeah, I've done research on that. It's just more grossness is all it is.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh no, there's a great there's a whole apocalypse now side story that you're missing. No, it's just more of the insane.
But also, I did not realize how quickly this movie was just thrown together. Yeah, it's like, we got a time slot, make a movie. It's like, all right. So there seemed to be a lot of this just shows off how great a British film crew can be.
Yeah, if they have to be.
Yeah.
Well, because there's a lot of trivia about this movie that I've read. This movie I was always this is one of those movies I watched and I think I hit something when it was over because I was angry. Is all the elements were there.
Yeah,
it just sucked.
It just has a terrible third act.
Yeah, and so I've always done research, and there were things that said in the beginning they blew almost 75% of their effects budget on the opening daylight station scene where Dr. Weir's drinking coffee upside down and then the camera turns around and you're like, well, that's dumb. It's like, no, that's how fast that scene wasn't worth 75% of their effects budget. They just had to spend it to get it done that quickly. It was more of a paying for shipping than it was for the quality of what's in the box.
Yeah. Even though that is a cool shot.
It is a cool shot. I mean, for late 90s standards, it's pretty good.
Yeah, and I never saw it in theaters, and apparently that made people very ill watching that scene.
It's jarring. because I have it on disc. I just watched it on disc this time.
Yeah, I picked up. I rented it from the library, and it was the Shout Factory edition of it, which is kind of weird because it's like a Paramount film, and apparently they farmed out the the DVD to Shout Factory, who is mostly known for doing like weird kitschy stuff. Like they do like special edition releases of like Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah.
And they do the volumes of the Mystery Science Theater 3000. So it's very, they're kind of a low bar kind of company, but it's not like they do bad stuff. It's just like they try to hype up kind of like weird bad movies.
Yeah, it's distribution of offbeat science fiction type stuff that has acquired maybe a cult following, but it's not like Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's really oddball stuff. I just have the old fashioned original edition. I mean, I think this disc is like, this is one of those ones where you got to flip it over for the special features. It's that old. So yeah, it's pretty old.
Yeah, I had a Blu-ray, which the only weird thing about that is that like you can tell like, okay, this is like filmed from the 90s, and then kind of like it doesn't merge well with the special effects, especially on the Blu-ray, because like, so usually in movies, like when you have like a computer screen, well on set they'll just put like a slap some blue screen or green screen there and then put it in later. And here is like the digital effects of the computer screens like have no grain to them, so they stand out from the movie in a weird way. And I don't think I think I probably wouldn't notice if I wasn't watching it on a Blu-ray, but because I was, it just looked really weird.
It's like a very concise, bright screen picture that have just a waterfall of useless information coming out of it.
Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, not to be confused with Paul Thomas Anderson, the much better director, better Paul Anderson director. But
yeah, it's sad when you're like in movies and you've made some movies of questionable quality and value, and then there's another guy with the same name who like, oh, they're stuffing another Oscar up his ass this year, and you're like some guy in England like, oh no. But you did get to date Mila Jovovich, so that's,
they're married as far as I knew.
Yeah, maybe they still are. I don't know.
Yeah, because he's made like 5 movies with her, so
yeah,
like they're still making movies together.
Resident Evil 10,000.
Yeah. So yeah, he's kind of a hack director. Not to say like he's a bad director, but he's a guy who's like, if you need it done and on time and on budget, he's your guy.
Oh yeah.
He can do good stuff, but a lot of time he's just borrowing things from other movies. So, which is what everybody does. I mean, the genius of Quentin Tarantino is that he steals from movies you don't even know exist.
Yeah. And then talks about it.
Yeah.
He's not bullshitting you about it. He's like, oh, I totally stole it.
Whereas here, Paul W.S. Anderson, he's like, I took this from The Shining. It's like, no shit, dude.
Yeah, we know. Seen a movie before. We get it.
So yeah, his first movie he made was called Shopping, which is like hooligans in Britain that would like ram a car into a store and just steal everything and then get out of there, which I guess became a big controversy because they're like, oh no, all the hooligans are going to start doing this. We need to ban this movie.
Yeah, because it's a movie that's going to make that happen, not your completely like defective economic system and class and stuff that still permeate your society today. No, it's like they can't see it, or they won't think. Who would think of driving a car into the front of a shop and looting it? Like,
but it's got like a young Jude Law and a couple of guys from this movie are in that movie, so I probably gotta like see that sometime. And then he directed Mortal Kombat, which is kind of like. Which is a good B movie. Like that's the thing you can say about him. He's kind of like one of the last B movie directors. There's not really guys like this around anymore. Like you either direct blockbusters or you would be directing television. And somehow he's managed to like, I'll direct video game movies. But yeah, Mortal Kombat was a fun actioner at the time, and you know, it's still fun. And then and then apparently he was wanted to do Soldier next, which is a movie I really hate,
Yeah.
or at least was incredibly disappointed in. So he did this in between the movie he wanted to make, and this is probably like his most original, best movie he's made. Because then he ended up on the Resident Evil franchise, which I forget has some weird distinction where it's like not like the most successful sci-fi franchise, or it might be like the most successful like horror sci-fi or something specific, or it's like they really make that much money, but they made a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know guys that like watch those over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's very popular with a certain group of guys that seem to like just that's just running in the background of their life.
Well, I remember like I didn't like the first Resident Evil because it departed so much from the video game, but that movie had like a really famous scene, which they again here's he's being a hack, is they basically just stole all the cool murder scenes from Cube and then just put them in Resident Evil. Especially with the laser grid scenes. It's like, oh, that's from Cube, but I guess nobody's seen Cube, so he gets to win the prize.
I'll put it this way: your typical add and return on Resident Evil. I'm looking at the charts here now. Not all of them did this well, but some of them literally 50-60 million dollars into making the movie 300 million. That's just box office return. That's just the box office numbers.
Yeah.
You get into rental and buying them, very strong numbers. So yeah, that's why they keep making those.
But so you directed the first one. You didn't direct the second one. I like the second one better because it was more faithful to the video games. But then I rewatched it like a couple of years ago. I was like, oh, this is trash.
Yeah.
But the best one was the third one, which he also didn't direct. Which was like they basically made Resident Evil into Mad Max, and it's the best one. And he didn't direct that, and then he directed the 3 after that. It was like, Jesus, there's 6 of these movies.
Yeah. There's a ton of them.
Yeah, there's a great Red Letter Media thing where I think they look over the movies and it's like just ridiculous because they point out all the ridiculous scenes where it's obviously like it's like, oh, the Matrix is cool, and they try to do something the Matrix but with like half the budget. It just looks completely ridiculous.
Yeah, and it looks like it too. It shows.
So that's
and
followed up
like Pompeii.
Oh yeah. Huh.
Which was like $100 million bomb.
Yeah, I remember that came out around the same time as like the Ben-Hur remake. And
Yeah,
they're like they both bombed in the same way. It's like, what's this? Who's the star? And it's like nobody went to it, and it cost like $80 million.
Well, they had the guy from Game of Thrones was one of the main characters. And then I think Kiefer Sutherland was in it as like a Roman senator. I know there was some like strange casting. I don't know if what's his name showed up for that guy from the Silence of the Lambs. Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, I think he might have had a part in that. I don't remember. I never watched it.
Yeah, but he directed the Resident Evil movies, and then most recently he did a Monster Hunter movie, which is based on a video game as well, and starred his wife Mila Jovovich.
Wait, was that the one with like Ron Perlman was in it for a little bit?
That's probably, yeah.
Okay, I think I remember that one. I think I watched that one night just for like.
It's got like modern military and then giant monsters in it. And it's
yeah, because they like went through a time hole or something. Yeah. Okay, I did watch that. That's something you watch when you're building tiger tracks. I don't need to watch the whole. I can just kind of listen.
I don't need to necessarily condemn Paul W.S. Anderson. Like, he makes fun, well enough stuff that just like it's hard to say like, oh, this is a great movie. It's like, no, it exists. It was fun for what it was.
Yeah.
And you need those people to make movies sometimes.
Yeah, I don't need to think. Everything doesn't need to be like the Taylor of Panama. Sometimes you just need to unplug.
And the
or what's the Paul Anderson movie? What was the one he made that I liked? Did he make the one about Scientology?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
With like Philip Seymour Hoffman and stuff.
Yes. I remember that was. Yeah. That was when I really liked Philip Seymour Hoffman. I thought, this guy's really cool. I mean, I liked him from like the Mission Impossible movie he was in. So he used to play drops on the show. Like, I'm gonna find out who you love. and I'm gonna hurt him real bad, because he was just being Philip Seymour Hoffman, and there's Tom Cruise, and they're
Yeah.
like agents or whatever, and then he does it. He like does kill him in a horrible, like weird way, and it's like, this guy's evil. And then he died because he liked heroin more than he liked life, I guess.
Cinematographer is Adrian Biddle, who I gotta read you off his filmography. It's wild. First movie out of the gate, Aliens.
Yep, time to get started.
The Princess Bride.
All right.
Willow. Then we get a bunch I don't know. The Dawning, The Tall Guy. Then we got Thelma and Louise.
Oh,
You got 1492, so he worked with Ridley Scott twice. Got City Slickers 2, The Legend of Curly's Gold. Judge Dredd.
with the Stallone one.
Yeah, it's Stallone.
Okay.
Yeah, because we got the first live action 101 Dalmatians, Fierce Creatures, The Butcher Boy, then Event Horizon, Holy Man, that weird Eddie Murphy comedy thing.
Oh, okay.
He's cinematographer on the first Mummy movie. Well, I guess technically the remake, but the 99 Mummy. Then he did The World Is Not Enough, The Weight of Water, 102 Dalmatians, The Mummy Returns, Reign of Fire,
Nice.
Shanghai Nights, Laws of Attraction, Bridget Jones, The Edge of Reasons, which that's like the sequel, An American Haunting, and the last movie he did before he died was V for Vendetta.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, okay. I can see why this movie looked good then. It has some excellent, if eclectic choices in filmmaking. 1492 is a gorgeous looking movie.
Yeah.
It's just like watching paint dry, but it looks great.
Well, as soon as I felt like, oh, this guy did Aliens, then suddenly I can make a lot of connections where it's like, I bet they could shoot fast because I bet Paul's like, hey, can we do that shot from Aliens? Like, you got it.
Yep. I've done it once. It won't be hard to recreate.
Again, that's probably how this guy makes movies. It's like, well, somebody else did it, and we can just do it cheaper and faster.
Yep. Just slap a different coat of paint on it and say it's a different name. And it works.
Yeah. Again, it's fine, but
Imagine if they if Event Horizon had time to breathe, and the inspiration for it was 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's like, we're gonna tell that story, but in the style of 2001: Space Odyssey.
It was written by Philip Eisner, who I think we have a tangential connection here. So remember we watched The Book of Henry?
Oh yeah, one of my favorites.
The guy who wrote that, he wrote another movie called Sweet Girl. So Philip Eisner and him co-wrote Sweet Girl.
Okay.
I know you know what Sweet Girl is. I don't, but you've seen it.
Yeah.
Then apparently he wrote a Firestarter 2 sequel or a miniseries apparently, and then Mutant Chronicles. So that's all the movies he's written.
Okay. Yeah, that Firestarter 2, is that the one that's real popular with the fans, but people who critique things are like, this is trash?
It says it came out in 2002, so I'm not sure if that's...
Oh, no, it's not that one. There's another new one, I think, on Hulu or something.
Oh, yeah, there's a new one on Hulu, so...
Okay, that's the one I'm talking about, where it's like, the fans love it, but the critics hate it.
Well, apparently this movie, Firestarter 2, had Malcolm McDowell and Dennis Hopper in it.
Nice. Two weird British guys, can't go wrong. Actually, Anthony Hopkins is Welsh. He'll tell you that. So. Whatever that means.
I don't know. What did I say? Oh, it was Dennis Hopper is American, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking of something else.
And then
Dennis Hopper, King Koopa.
We've probably got to watch that movie at some point.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know,
don't
there's
think
like
I've ever seen it in one sitting. I think I've only seen it in sections.
I was so excited to see it when I was a child. That was probably the first movie I went to the theaters and was left extremely disappointed. It was like, oh, I didn't know movies could be bad.
It's like
And
God doesn't exist.
but there's like been this weird turn on it where it's like there's a weird history with like the people that made it where it's like essentially like there was like this weird couple that somehow finagled Nintendo to give them the rights to make this Super Mario Brothers movie. And there's like this weird like no you're misunderstanding the movie, like this is actually like really creative and weird, and it's like I guess, but I just remember it being disappointed, so I haven't gone full into like this new kind of meta about the Super Mario Brother movie. So
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to bring your own stuff. It's fun. It doesn't mean it's true.
well, I guess yeah, 'cause, like trivia I remember about that is like basically everyone was drunk on set and they didn't care that they were making the movie. It's like, well, that doesn't sound like quality, but anyways.
Now I want to see like the other people stumbling. All right, Cat, we got a call. It's set call. It's just people falling.
The cast, we got Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, and Kathleen
The only
Quinlan.
celebrity I've ever met, by the way, is Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, okay.
The only one I've ever met.
Well, I mean, would you consider who's the Celtics?
Oh no, yeah, him too. But I didn't know that he. I thought he was
okay.
some tall guy I wanted to show my toy to. Know who that was. But yeah, no, Lawrence Fishburne. I actually knew who it was.
Huh.
I said hi, and it's like, hey.
What was the context for that?
I was in a hotel somewhere
okay.
for work, and I was walking down the aisle, and I saw this very distinctive looking man walking towards me, and I did a double take, and he kind of started nodding a little bit, and I was like, hi, and he said, hey, and I was like, cool, I'm not going to stop and be like, let me be your friend. No, I'm not that guy.
Sir, you don't understand. I know you, and you know nothing about me.
This was right before the first Matrix was made.
Okay, so this is probably around the time after this movie.
Yeah.
Because this came out in 97 and Matrix was 99, so.
Yep. I always think of Lawrence Fishburne as for Apocalypse Now. Lawrence Fishburne is always the first one that comes to mind because I just feel like I've watched this guy grow up in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, literally, he's like 16 when he did that.
Yeah.
We have Act 1. We start with the Paramount logo and it like morphs into a star field and there's some sci-fi space effects. There's like weird like techno Batman music.
Yeah. I played this on the movie when we talked about last time we talked about the book, that last Andy Weir book about contact with aliens.
Okay, yeah.
Remember I said that's how it should have ended, and I played the Event Horizon theme. It's like that. When he came back, if he came back to Earth, because remember the last thing he had was the gun, and we don't know because we know what he did with the nitrogen, we know what he did with the painkillers, but it's like the Chinese guy had the gun he was going to shoot himself with, and it's like that he never did anything with that, but he could have gone back to Earth and shot the director who forced him to go, and then I played the Event Horizon soundtrack.
Which I guess when he did Mortal Kombat, that made like. Yeah, that was kind of like techno's here now, and I guess also like this movie ends on a Prodigy song, like just like a month before Fat of the Land came out, which was a huge album. So,
yep.
So Paul Anderson, W.S. Anderson, he does have like a taste for things. Like I think people like this, even though they kind of are already familiar with it. So, he is talented in some ways.
Hey, I was entertained. I mean, I will watch this movie to a point. This movie makes me mad because it's like this was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie was really good. My thing with this movie is like this does everything I like. I like abandoned places. I like mysterious ghost ships. I like strange messages that you have to decipher. I love all that nonsense.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, we made a black hole ship. And it's like, yeah, this is cool. Again, junk science, but amazing. Or maybe it could happen. Who knows? But it's like, yeah, this hit all the points with me until like the end.
Well, like, I mean, this is the problem I have with like, there's a lot of movies that are almost exactly like this. and they have the same problem. Although here, like, this is kind of like what gave me the pattern for this problem. And on rewatch, it's like, oh, this movie doesn't necessarily have that problem, but it's still not good. Anyways, the problem is you got like this and like Prometheus and Sunshine, which are like, we're gonna send the smartest people, most ambitious people in the world out to solve the biggest problem in the world, and then by the third act they're dying like teenagers in a Friday the 13th movie.
Stupid. It's very frustrating. Not saying that I've made 0 movies in my life, and I will make 0 movies in my life. I have written 0 screenplays and will never do that, but I just can't imagine sitting around throwing the tennis ball around with a bunch of guys, and it's like, yeah, this is going to be our last act. It's like, is everyone on drugs? I mean, this isn't running out of money. This is running out of ideas. No, we're going to build on all the themes we established. It's like, yeah, in the dumbest way possible, in the most immature, childlike way possible. Anyway, go on.
So we'll probably at some point we'll have to review all those movies I've just mentioned.
Yes, we will, and we can, and we should.
Because there's also a thing about, like, apparently other people have the same problem with Prometheus, but now there's like a backlash where it's like, no, you guys are stupid, you're missing the themes or whatever.
Yeah, like, tell me about that. I'll just repeat the speech I just gave.
It's like, I'm not saying the movie's bad. I'm saying, like, it starts in a really cool place and it ends in a really shitty place, and I didn't want it to end there. It's like, that's my problem with the movie.
Yeah.
I'm
not
disappointed.
Saying I could do better. It's just like, you've disappointed.
Yes. Disappointment comes from promise. It doesn't come from like, oh, this is bad, I'm sorry I watched this. So we get a time structure of what happened. We got 2015, first permanent colony established on the moon. Didn't happen, sorry.
Yeah, that whole like energy science and thermodynamics has always been the shackles of mankind.
2032, commercial mining begins on Mars. So yeah, now we're outside of our time frame. Like, I don't know. You think 10 years from now we'll have something mining on the Mars?
Depends on.
I mean, technically we still do.
Elon Musk, invest. I mean, it's like he could send people up there to mine. They're all going to die, but it's like, okay.
I mean, we got some of those robots drilling. I mean, technically that's mining, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like.
But yeah, here they mean we got people like with a drill and aiming at the ground.
Yeah, we just got like hillbillies on Mars mining.
No, that's a movie.
Hey, they were my favorite one. Another movie I half like, Outland. That's mining in space.
Yeah,
they're mining titanium and exploding, taking drugs.
Yeah, so it's again, that's another of our favorites.
Yeah.
We did on Greed Factory. We did a special one with that. Where even
we did dialogue from the movie and stuff.
Yeah, but we did that separately from the movie. We did that for, I can't remember what we did that for, but yeah, we did a thing where we like enacted the dialogue for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. At some point we were making like fake commercials because you have like your Gold for Lunatics thing. Like, I can't remember why we did. I love that, but I can't remember why we did it in the first place.
I was probably that's when it was still acceptable to listen to podcasts and shows that were just purely about conspiracy theories. And that's back in the black kind of the end of the black helicopter era, but it was still there. But yeah, it was just like every other ad was to like buy gold, and it's like, we can't eat gold. I mean, you could shoot it through a gun because it's essentially lead with one atom difference, but it's like, what is all this gold buying going to do? What are you going to parlay for? If you have a potato and you're starving to death and someone offers you a bar of gold, guess what? You're taking the potato. Can't eat the gold. And so that was like a riff on like all these crazy right-wing conspiracy shows. Like, you buy gold now. It's like, why? Buy food now.
2040 deep space research vessel Event Horizon. I kept getting like weird trivia on this where it said like the all the different names for the movie, but like at all points the ship was always named Event Horizon. It's like, why don't you just always call the movie Event Horizon? That's a cool name.
Yeah. Yeah, it should
Um,
always be Event Horizon, which, by the way, was a top secret program developed by U.S. Aerospace Command to travel faster than light. So you built it in secret and tested it in secret, but you named it Event Horizon, which is the area around a black hole where you can no longer escape its gravitational pull because you would need to exceed light speed to escape that, which you can't do because of Einstein. And it's like, yeah, like all the other, whoever the enemies of America are in this future world, it's like that's not much of a secret. Do you think other countries don't know what Event Horizon is? But it was like a secret program, but we called it Event Horizon because it makes an artificial black hole. It's like, okay, good, not good. You could have called it Project Ubangi or something.
Yeah, the only thing I know, the other thing I know about Event Horizon is that's I think it's central to one of Hawking's theses about like, because there's like these different states of the universe. Like people believe like it's a solid state or it's like the ever expanding universe or something like that. The solid state universe like would suggest that like the universe can only go so far and then it'll retract because nothing more can be created or whatever. And so Hawking's theory is like, so you have these things, you have matter and antimatter, and I don't know how this works, but how it describes to me is that they'll suddenly come into existence at the same time and obliterate each other. Yes. So Hawking's theory is that if these things come into existence at the event horizon, one will get sucked to the black hole and one will get thrown out into the universe, thus creating matter in the universe out of nothing, or essentially, So
yeah.
That's me oversimplifying Hawking's theory, but at least you can visualize it. It's like, one thing goes one way and the other thing goes the other way.
It sounds cool.
I still don't know that. I just don't get the idea of like matter and antimatter just suddenly coming to existence. But
both things have to exist and not exist at the same time because one is matter and one is antimatter. So let's fire up a joint.
Event Horizon is launched to explore boundaries of the solar system. She disappears without trace beyond the 8th planet Neptune. It is the worst space disaster on record. 2047 now. And then we show the Event Horizon.
It's like I'm doing the Escape from New York. Remember, they were famous for 1997. Now, cuts to the beautiful matte painted Manhattan skyline in Escape from New York.
Which would have been painted by James Cameron, I think, or at least he did. I'm not sure if he did all the matte paintings, but he did some of them for that movie.
Aren't Canadians like the best matte painters in the world? Isn't there some law?
I don't know about that.
Because there's a lot of Canadians I know that are like just experts at matte painting, which is still something used. It's actually cost effective to use that even in computer era.
I haven't read it yet, but I bought it and make sure to buy it early because art books are fucking crazy when they go out of print. Because I'm trying to I was trying to look to purchase the Metal Gear Solid art book, and it's like $300. I was like, this is $50 when it was launched. Anyways, James Cameron has an art book called Tech Noir, which is basically like his history and like in film and stuff like that, and all his drawings and stuff. Like he used to draw like posters for movies and stuff like that. That's how he made money. But like it's a flipping through it was a really cool book. I heard somebody review it and he said like, yeah, this book will also make you feel like such a lazy piece of shit because it's like James Cameron just had so many things, like so many irons in the fire and so many things going on and learning about so much stuff, and he was so talented at almost anything he put his mind to. It's and he's talking about like oh, I'm just wasting money. Like if it takes me a day to make this this poster for this company, and like I'm just losing money. It's like, yeah, I don't think like that. Like I like to waste time.
Like here's a brilliant, like he directs movies, he's a writer, he does art, and then it's like when he has enough money he designs submersibles. It's like it's nuts. No one is this good. There has to be limits.
Well, he's a total asshole. That's the downside of James Cameron, is he can't be that talented and be a nice person.
Yeah, this isn't like Tom Hanks. You know? He's probably not an asshole, really, in actuality. I mean, he
Yeah.
acts like one, I'm sure, but he is probably, his mind is working so fast
Yeah.
that talking to normal people is like
Yes.
talking to the sloths in the Zootopia thing. He's just like, he's so agitated. Yeah, he's going to grab your ears and scream because this guy's mind's working on a whole different level.
So I wrote the event horizon is adrift next to some planet. That's not true. It's like in the clouds of Neptune,
Yeah.
which doesn't make sense, but does look really cool.
Again, I'm all in junk science. Cool. 'Cause I don't know real science, so whatever they say, I'm on board with.
So this is the first time I didn't realize on all the other viewings of this movie that it was in the planet's atmosphere. I thought it was
You
just
didn't know
like
that? Oh, okay, yeah.
I just thought it was like in a weird nebula or whatever. I thought that's what all that, you know, the colorful cloud stuff was or whatever. It's like, it's just a nebula, right? So because if you told me it's in
an out for like, there's been no radio transmissions.
Yeah.
And then you could ask logically, like, well, if they could make one, they could surely make more. It's like, well, not if they're sucked into, you know, the orbit of Saturn or what planet was
Neptune.
it? Neptune. Yeah, Neptune. I always forget that's a planet. But yeah, so it's like, yeah, that's probably
You know,
why
Nathan? You know, Nathan? What is it, Jupiter in 2001?
Yeah.
I bet they just picked, or no, was it Saturn?
It was Jupiter.
Crap. Jupiter? I bet they just picked a different planet so to not be as obvious as 2001.
Cool. Yeah, because Jupiter's like a creepy planet.
Yeah.
Neptune's just a frozen ball of ice.
Yeah.
Way out there.
It was you. What, did I cut you off? I can't remember. Sorry, I can't remember.
No, keep going. I'm just throwing things in as we go.
I
have a lot to say, so I'm going to try to spread it out like peanut butter.
Oh yeah, I was just saying I thought this was in a nebula or whatever when I didn't realize it was in a planet's atmosphere. And you were talking about how it could get a message out and then not later on. So
yeah, which they never really addressed again.
No. Then they cut to the inside of the ship. There's just some debris. This is very early CGI, so it doesn't look good. But at least it's like, well, I can tell that's junk in the air. So there's that. Yeah, there's kind of a weird mix of effects because like the model work with Event Horizon looks awesome.
Yeah.
And the CGI does not look awesome.
No. And it's stupid. And there's a bottle of water in a liquid state floating around, which looks cool on camera, but make absolutely no sense even to a junk science guy like me. It's like that would not be liquid unless it was sealed in like a vacuum tight container, but then we wouldn't be seeing through it.
Yeah.
But it does look cool. It's got a ticking watch. It's a bunch of nonsense.
Then we see like a flayed body just kind of like floating inside the spacecraft, and then it's a nightmare. And Sam Neill wakes up. Weir is his name. Doctor, I think, is it Dr. Weir or is it just Weir?
Dr. Weir. Yeah.
Okay. And then I sort of
Lawrence Fishburne punctuates that a lot.
Okay.
Because Lawrence Fishburne is a very uptight, straightforward character. Dr. Weir, are you with us?
And then you see him, he like laments the picture of like what I wrote, probably his wife, and it is. Yeah. Which again, another thing, like maybe why I didn't give this movie enough credit and never paid attention to. I thought his wife was like on the first, like was like on the crew of the first Event Horizon. Like, no, it's dumber than that, but whatever.
Yeah, it would have been better. It would have made more sense.
And this is Sam Neill like 4 years after Jurassic Park, so he's probably a pretty big get for them, even though I doubt he didn't really become a huge star after Jurassic Park, but at least people know who he is. So
he's a face. He's almost like a character actor that can do a lead.
Yeah,
because you always know what you're getting with Sam Neill, because he's pretty consistent. From the Mouth of Madness to this, he's good in these kind of roles.
Yeah,
he's believable.
Yeah, you respect him. Which I think probably like hurts the third act the most. Is like, you want to like him in this movie, and then he gets to the third act. Is like, why?
Yeah, what are you doing? I mean, I knew Sam Neill from Until the End of the World.
Oh, what's that?
It's a weird Wim Wenders film from like the early '90s.
Oh,
it's got every famous actor that's not American in it. It's about and William Hurt is the and so he's in it. He's an American actor, but it's kind of a weird story. It's like a 3.5 hour movie about Max von Sydow invents a machine where you can relive people's memories or the memories of dead people or the people that have like Alzheimer's or something. Like you can, it's all there's all kinds of stuff going on. It's a messy movie. It's kind of a cool art piece for the early '90s.
Oh,
But Sam Neill's one of the main characters in it.
oh, okay.
So everyone thinks Sam Neill Jurassic Park. I think Sam Neill until the end of the world.
This is where I had the pull out shot where it's like you see Sam Neill or Weir upside down and the camera gets like spins and it reveals that it's in orbit around the Earth and the camera keeps spinning. And it is like a cool shot. And apparently this is the shot that cost a bunch and they had to send it back to get it done 40 times for a shot that lasts like half a minute. So.
Yeah, that really establishes nothing else in the movie except this guy's on a space station
around Earth.
Around Earth.
And then we have the search and rescue ship Lois and Clark, which we have Lawrence Fishburne is Captain Miller. He's got this chair that's like hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, their space chairs sucked in this. That was the worst like set thing in a movie with a lot of weird set stuff, but that was definitely kind of because when they sit there, they have to sit with like their arms crossed.
Yeah.
When you're sitting like this, but you're like, no, we must do that. You're trying to give commands. It's like it doesn't look good.
No.
It wasn't a good look, I thought.
Well, also like I feel like here like Miller's like a cool character and like all this chair does is it just makes him look like he's literally a boss that's just hanging over your shoulder.
Yeah. It's not a good look. They should have had space chairs from the floor. I understand what they were trying to get across, that those chairs kept you from getting your back broken if that ship had to maneuver violently. Yeah. But it's like it never comes up again. It's just a static.
And only the captain's chair is hanging from the ceiling,
yeah,
which is it's just kind of meant for like he can observe in different ways rather than the rest of the crew or something. But but it just looks silly here. But again, it is 97, so
because of how it makes the actors sit and stand. Well, the other horror story in this movie for the actors were those spacesuits.
Yeah, they're heavy, really heavy.
Yeah, you couldn't. I mean, they were hurting their backs. I don't know why they had to be that heavy. I mean, they had a cool look.
Well, there's a weird thing where like how the suit worked, you couldn't sit in them. So to rest, they basically like put like hoists, and to hold the weight up, so they could just stand and rest in between takes.
Yeah, it's like they had plastics in '97. I don't know what's going on.
And then we have everyone's getting put in the grav couch, presumably for deep space travel, which it is. Which is just like a cylinder with liquid in it to help with like fast. Well, are they going faster than light, or are they just going near light?
No, they're firing something called the ion drive.
Oh, okay.
Which you have to be in water, and you can. I don't think you can have air inside your body either. It's like they have a breathing apparatus, but they said it's kind of like suffocating or something. But because remember they said it's like, yeah, if you're like up moving around or just sitting on the ship, it'll pulverize your skeleton because they're going to go from a very slow speed to a very fast.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they taper off as they get closer, or they have to flip around and fire the engines again to slow down. Again, this movie's not big. This isn't like this isn't very Expanse here. This is more.
But I did think the pods are interesting because all they did was they took, like the canopy off a fighter jet and just like turned it vertically, and then it's like, oh, that's good. Which I don't know if they were like real fighter jet canopies or just like, hey, we have a bunch of these from other movies.
I would guess the latter.
Yeah, because that's like a very British thing where it's like, just take this thing, turn it vertically or horizontal, paint it a different color, and it's a new thing.
Yeah, just shoot it from a distance or with the characters in front of it. They'll never know. And usually it works.
Yeah.
Until you notice it, then it like never goes away. Once you unlock the riddle, it's like, I can't unsee this.
We have Jason Isaacs who plays DJ. He's giving Weir an injection. We know Jason Isaacs is the evil captain in Star Trek Discovery.
Yes. who also looks exactly the same in
Yeah.
Discovery as he does, and he's one of those guys that he's like an eternal 40.
Yeah, he weirdly
He
probably
turned
looks
40 when he
older
was
and
12 and
yeah.
stopped.
Probably because of the styling, he probably looks older in this movie than he does like 10 years or 20 years later.
Yeah, yeah. This is a very dark movie. It's very shot in a lot of darkness.
He's also it's a movie I haven't seen, but there's like a bunch of memes on it called The Death of Stalin. Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh yeah, yeah. He plays General Kuzov or something. He's one of those ones where he's wearing like he has an AK-47 and he's got those the Soviet style where they're just festooned with medals.
Yeah, they got like 100 medals on their chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been meaning to like see that movie sometime.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, I see so many things about it. For some reason, I just never invested the time to actually watch it.
Oh, it's worth watching. I mean, I know like yeah, he was General Zhukov, which is funny because Zhukov was actually bald, but
Then we got a prompt that says 56 days later around Neptune, Weir wakes up out of the grav tank and he gets released, but nobody else does. And then Weir hears the voice of his dead wife. There's like a cheap jump scare where just like a blind just kind of opens up all of a sudden. Which I guess isn't scary, but it's just one of those, like, it's just a loud sound suddenly and then you jump at it. So, and then Weir sees like a naked lady on the bridge. It's Claire, his dead wife. And then a different version shows up behind him and she grabs him, but she has no eyes and she says, "I'm waiting." And then he wakes up from being the last person like out of the grav chamber. So,
yeah.
So now we're having nightmares. But those are all his personal nightmares. You know, these aren't induced by the event horizon, presumably. I don't know.
Do we know?
Then we have Miller like cracking the whip or like the crew's like in their underwear and it's like, "I want reports now, people." I also like, oh yeah, I don't have it pulled up. There's the lady that plays Stark. She's got a, I think she's got, because she just seems like the B grade Laura Dern. It's like, we need an Australian Laura Dern. Here you go. Which she's fine in the movie, but I was
a tennis player before this.
Huh.
Like when she was a lot younger, she's from England.
Oh, she's from England.
She
Okay.
lived in America quite a bit, and that's where she learned tennis.
It was weird in the audio commentary because like it's done with Paul W.S. Anderson and like one of the producers on here, and like Paul's trying to be like kind of diplomatic because like, we hired her because she did the jargon the best, and the director's just being skeevy. It's like, and she looked pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Paul's just like, "I think she did a great job." It's like, "Yeah, she's sexy, right?" It's like, and this is a British producer. He's also a creep, so whatever. I mean, you don't have to say what everyone's thinking. Sometimes just let a compliment be a compliment.
Yeah, you don't have to like, let's explore this. Let's explore my lust for this actress.
Yeah, Paul's like, "I think she did a good job." And he's like, "She's not gonna like that. She's pretty." So yeah, I got what's here?
Kathleen Quinlan is their medical technician.
What I looked up I saw that she was like nominated for an Oscar or something. I don't know like what's her history. Do you know her from stuff?
I think didn't she get? I think she's going to get an Academy Award for she was the wife of someone in Apollo 13.
Oh, okay.
And then I think she was on TV a lot.
Oh, okay.
Because she was like I think the first movie she did was like what's the George Lucas movie about the 50s? American Graffiti?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was like 18 in that.
Huh.
And then she did a lot of she did a lot of like serious stuff.
Yeah.
And then she
yeah, she seems to me like she'd be like a consummate like British like television actor or something like that, but
yeah, she's American.
Oh, is she American? Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's from Pasadena.
Huh. I don't know why. Is she doing something British? I don't know why I'm thinking of her as British. She's doing something British in this movie.
I don't. Everyone kind of had like mumbled accents, like because I think your British actors were was like
Yeah, Jason
Star.
and Sean Pertwee were the, like,
Yeah, those were the obviously British guys, like
yeah.
Jason Isaacs, Sean Pertwee, and then Kath or Jolie Richardson. But everyone
Oh
else
yeah,
seemed kind of. I mean, Sean Pertwee was like super British, like
yeah. I mean, this
right,
was shot in
this.
Britain, so
Oh, yeah. Well, he's the son of John Pertwee,
oh, he is
who's
okay.
the third Doctor. But this guy plays the exact same character no matter what movie he's in. But he's fun to watch
Yeah, yeah.
because he just looks like a guy like what's going on? Why are we here?
Yeah, it's fun to watch him be angry.
Yeah, and he's like the single standout character in this for me, as far as like the voice of reason
Yeah,
is like all along into this. Well, let's keep
yeah.
talking. We got to get to
The NSA got a signal from the event horizon. They're having the crew meeting, so the NSA got a signal from the event horizon. Everyone laughs at it because, like, the event horizon's dead. So the event horizon's a cover-up story that there's a cover-up story of the event horizon blowing up, and it's false. They say FTL isn't possible, but here we get what is now a popular, and I guess it was explained in like other like books or something before, but this is the first time I know this is committed to film, explaining the black hole is folding space by like taking a piece of paper, folding it, and like putting a point on two ends of a piece of paper, folding it together, shoving a pencil through. Because this is also in like Interstellar. They used it in like Stranger Things, and a bunch of other movies have done this exact thing. So as far as I know, this is the first time it's been put to film was in this movie. So
with a photo, a PG rated photo of a model.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. She's like in tinfoil, and it says 2047. So it's a future porno mag because she's covered in silver.
Yeah, silver, the color of the future. This is actually everyone's theory of light travel because it's the only theory that works. Because Star Trek is that too.
Yeah. Because it's how you get around the theory of relativity without. Because like if you go this fast between these two space and time, well then time is supposed to advance way farther by the time you get there. But here it's like the time always continues at the same.
Yeah.
Time never jumps forward. It's always the same relative to whatever. Which
you're not approaching what they call a relativistic speed where time starts to slow.
Yeah.
Because you really physically can't go this fast in real space either, because a tiny pebble would suddenly take on the strength of a mountain when you hit it at 20 times the speed of light. So.
But yeah, that's why you have like the deflector dish explanation in Star Trek, and then you have
well, no, the deflector dish is only used at like impulse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when they're in warp, they're like I forget. There's a whole
subspace bubble.
Yeah. It's basically like the reason it's called a warp drive is it's warping space around it.
Yeah,
when they're sliding through the paradox of general relativity, which is, I mean, all this stuff is like, according to the smart people that I read, not according to my own research in mathematics, but according to the smart people I read, it's like, yeah, this is all very possible, but it's the energy requirements are like beyond imagination.
You'd have to build your ship out of the fuel you're using to that's why it's powered by like matter and antimatter, where it's like here's the creation of the universe. Is that enough energy to power your warp drive?
Yes. That's why I always appreciated another dark sci-fi odyssey that's only in books so far, the novels of Alistair Reynolds.
Yeah.
Like Chasm City and all. It's like, yeah, you can't go faster than light. Like that's a hard rule. Like their civilization is eventually destroyed as a result of other things in the universe. Like you can't go faster than light. Some aliens, if you talk about going faster than light, they die because it's so horrifying. Alistair Reynolds gets weird, but his way around that is you get near light.
Yeah.
But you have to put a giant basically build a giant glacier on the front of your ship, and that absorbs all the stuff because you're still moving through real space. You're just almost at light. You're just a skosh below light.
Yeah.
But then you run into all the problems of relativism and stuff, and that's what creates the bizarre cultures of that universe. But that's totally not what we're talking about. Anyway.
The last known message is played to the crew, and it's just like weird sounds and screaming. And then they kind of like decode
This
the
is where
message.
Smitty's like, yeah, all right, fuck that. We're not, I don't know what this is, but I'm not a part of it.
Oh, but then the DJ's like, I think it's Latin, and then we have a proximity klaxon goes off. So I have that being the end of Act 1. It's like, now
Oh, and let's review the fact that like the rest of the crew is not happy to be there. They're not overly friendly to
No.
Dr. Weir, but
Well,
they're
apparently
not,
they were just like they failed to rescue 2 other ships just before this, and they were like
yeah,
pulled away from like what was going to be like shore leave to do this mission.
yeah, because this is like I guess the Coast Guard or something.
Yeah,
Yeah. They're like some military part or something.
Yeah, because this is a rescue ship. I mean, like other ships are in danger, you send this ship out to get them. So.
Yeah. These aren't like the space truckers and aliens or something.
Yeah.
Or alien.
Nor are they space marines.
No, they're not combatants either. They're like, yeah, they never do have weapons. Of course, you can't really fight like hell with weapons. There's no like hell shotgun that you use. Only in Doom does that work.
So we have the Lois Clark goes into Neptune's ionosphere looking for the event horizon, and they like nearly run into it, of course, and so they show
Which
off
is
how
kind of
big
cool because it's like they don't like you can't. There's no like computer screen like in Star Trek. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're 1,500 meters. It's like, no, according to the sonar, it's right there, and they're like, we don't see it, and then the guy hits the E-stop as soon as they see it. Forward thrusters blow. Somehow don't break everyone's back, and then there's one of the coolest ships, in science fiction movies, the Event Horizon,
which again is built like supposed to be like a cathedral in space.
Yes.
Which is so they got lucky here because this already exists in fiction in Britain very extensively as Warhammer 40K.
Yes.
But that hasn't been committed to film yet, so they get to steal the thunder there.
Yep, because it looks like a giant. They looked at pictures of Notre Dame Cathedral in France, and basically the interior comes from that, all the swooping arches and stuff. And then the exterior, again, it looks like something out of Warhammer 40K.
Well,
and it's also a giant crucifix.
Yeah.
Because it has the outdrive engines, regular engines.
Well, and the front window is a cross too, so...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the best ships in science fiction. I mean, it was like, okay, you guys are like really on the nose here. Like, in the yards when they're designing it, it's like, come on. They're just begging for something bad to happen to the ship. It looks like a burial place.
It's like, cool. Yeah, we all know this ship's going to be evil because somebody built it to look evil.
Yeah.
Or they built it to honor God, and they did the exact wrong thing.
They built it to honor God and break his rules. And this is what happens. Anything could have happened. Like, it could have activated the gravity drive and gone to a universe made of acid, or, like anything could have happened.
Yeah.
But it had to be hell.
Or whatever we think it is.
Well, I told you there's a weird theory that this is actually, some people who have embraced this is like, this is where Warhammer 40K started.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there is a whole thing. It's like, yeah, they made a drive that opened the door to chaos. And that's what they're always fighting in Warhammer when they're not killing each other and living in the grimmest possible universe that ever existed. It's like, yeah, it's because of chaos from this other dimension. And I mean, there's never been an official connection made, but a lot of people like, look at the architecture of this thing. Look how this ship's like. This is right out of. So yeah, it's interesting that. I don't know how widespread that is. I just read that theory and I'm like, cool. Everyone believes this.
Yeah.
So, don't know
I like how it's giving credit to the movie rather than saying they ripped off Warhammer before it could get to film.
No, they still told the deep backstory. 40,000 years before. This is where it all started, with a guy named Weir who had a dream
that turned into a nightmare that killed his wife. So the team prepared to do a deck by deck search. Of course, they dock with Dock 13 because that's unlucky. Gotta have that.
Yeah.
We have Miller, Peters, and Justin board the Event Horizon in their evac suits. The place is deserted. There's explosive charges on the bridge on the bridgeway that connects the
Yeah,
the
that would encourage the hell out of me. Like, really just got armed explosives here, and
yeah,
they're
just
beeping
blinking.
away.
Yeah, yeah. Just gotta let you know.
Yeah, it's like, who's replacing the light bulbs in these? And better hope they don't hit the wrong thing.
Justin, he's like he's like the youngest of the crew. Everyone calls him, what do they call him, like Baby Bear.
DJ, or no, they call him Baby Bear, Justin.
Yeah. He goes through like this spinning spike light tunnel thing, which it looks really cool. Apparently was like very hard to actually walk through it because you would be just discombobulated.
Vertigo. Like,
yeah.
Just look straight ahead. Don't look at the sides.
Which I think they use a similar effect. I think it's in The Mouth of Madness. I can't remember. John Carpenter did it, where he basically just built a tunnel made out of trash bags, and they just poked holes in it and like shine, and they literally like moved the tunnel and had like lights above, and it created like a cool like strobing spiky like light thing going on.
Yeah, this one actually spun.
It was this one actually spun, so it's a bit
because I've seen the set pictures of what it looked like.
Yeah,
it's like it's just a bunch of bright lights outside this tube.
Yeah,
that's spinning around. And I guess that was a real safety thing too. I heard that a lot of the safety people on set were like, because it was just a catwalk. It was an industrial catwalk with handholds on both sides. It wasn't like full Star Wars where it's like, yeah, we don't even put safety rails up to fall into the abyss. But
I like that they put the safety rails up when everything in this ship is just covered in spikes.
Well, the safety rails were put up because if any of the actors fell into, they just get killed. I mean, I'm sure they could stop it, but it was just, they just cut holes in this giant thing and shine lights through it.
Yeah,
it was just sharp, jagged metal. So it's like, ooh, but yeah, everyone, nobody died.
Apparently, there was a sprinting scene with Lawrence Fishburne later on where he couldn't like sprint through the whole tunnel without basically getting vertigo.
Yeah, there's no way. It's too weird. It's shit like that will mess with you in ways.
Peter sees some blood, but doesn't notice like just blood and skulls like filling the walls in the background.
Yeah, there's some material here, and then the light shines behind her, and it's just like a Phnom Penh killing field of skulls and held together with like blood and other viscous matter. It's like, yeah, we'll turn around. It gets worse.
Then Peters
and for some reason that's never addressed. Even when they turn the power on, the lights come on. It's like, yeah, well, okay, the guy falls and shatters, but like, what about all the skulls and stuff?
Peters gets hit by a frozen corpse that just that decided to hang out. I think there's an earlier jump scare where like a glove hits Miller and he freaks out.
Yeah, Miller freaks out way more than Peters does when an actual corpse like comes into contact with her through a spacesuit, and it's like, well.
And you kind of got to imagine, I guess maybe the weird vibes are playing off it, because you have to imagine like with these guys' jobs, they deal with death a lot and probably be a bit more less surprised by this stuff. But
well, Peter, she's like a doctor or something. She's maybe she doesn't have the strong reaction because Miller's more of like I run the ship and I evaluate danger. I don't like deal with the blood and guts.
Yeah.
So, maybe, I don't know. It just seemed kind of, or maybe Lawrence Fishburne just acted that part differently.
Yeah, that's a scary movie. Sometimes you got to be scared.
Yeah.
Justin's like in the core of the gravity drive. I wrote, it looks like it's powered by OSHA violations because it's just a cylinder, a what's that thing at Disney World, the big round ball thing.
It's like a spear, like at Epcot or something.
Yeah, it's an Epcot center of spikes on the inside, and then there's the cool ball with like rotating things around it, and it's just a really cool looking engine thing.
Yeah, and the sound effect to it is like stone running together. Like you can tell this thing is dense, and even Justin's like, "What the hell is this?" He's looking around the room like, "What is this?"
And that's like, yeah, some of the set design here is just A+ stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, and it wasn't until like I rewatched this movie and realized like, oh yeah, there's really not that many sets in this movie.
Yeah.
They just kind of keep going back to the same places. Like the Event Horizon is like a medical bay, a bridge, a literal bridge, and then the core room. That's all
Yep.
you have. You just go between those different places. So,
Yeah, and then this is where Weir starts to get weird because Justin's like, because he's looking through Justin's helmet cam, and he's like, "Well, what is this?" He's like, "That's the heart of the ship." It's like, kind of weird, man. Found a corpse sickle and
um, and then like a black Stargate kind of opens up in the core, and then
Yeah.
Justin gets pulled inside.
he sticks his hand in it. To be fair,
yeah. Of
Why
course,
would
you
you
gotta
do
do the thing. Yeah, this only looks dangerous. Put your hand on it.
that's what happens.
What's in here?
Yeah, you just said this thing created an artificial black hole, right? Let's get our hands in there.
Yeah, you just said this was the engine room that creates infinite power. Like, let's put our hands on it.
Yeah, touch the creator.
um so he gets pulled inside, and then like a bunch of stuff on both ships like start overloading and exploding because of course we don't know why, but it's just like,
Yeah.
well, something happened. Something bad just happened.
Well, no, they identify what it is because Weir says it was like gravimetric discharge, which it did kind of seem like. Oh, okay, so it's just creating waves of gravity fields that are just pulling the ships violently around.
Yeah.
Because at this point we're still looking at like, oh, this is weird science, we don't know what we've done. We're not like going full supernatural. I mean, in the imagery we are, but still as a viewer and as the crew's reacting, it's like there's got to be a scientific explanation.
Yeah.
And because you're generated an artificial black hole machine, like the science can get really out there.
Yeah.
We don't have anything like that. I mean, except CERN, if you believe certain people, but I don't think we're creating artificial black holes on Earth at CERN. At least I hope not, because that sounds really dangerous.
I mean, not sustained ones.
Yeah, temporary ones.
Yeah, micro black holes.
Yeah, we're not creating like planet killers or anything.
Again, that they're literally trying to test like, hey, what's matter and antimatter? So,
well, they're doing Vortelac. Those are micro black holes.
Oh, okay.
Vortelac means vampire in Russian.
Okay.
Because they think that's what Tunguska was a microscopic black hole colliding with the Earth. Because why not? Well,
I thought that was
an asteroid, but
yeah, I thought that was a airburst asteroid thing.
Yeah, but it sounds cooler to like. No.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Russian scientists say really cool sounding stuff as a matter of course. Always sort of a problem with it. It's like, yeah, I guess.
We have
go on with yourself, Ivan. It's fun.
We have Cooper going to get Justin after he's in danger. So Justin comes out of the black hole and he grabs him. He's unconscious. The crew leave Lois and Clark for the Event Horizon because like they're losing power on the Lois and Clark, but they can keep
losing
it
air.
on. Oh, air. Okay.
It's
Oh yeah,
hole
because they have to repull the air, prepare the hole. Yeah. So they restore power and gravity on the Event Horizon.
The old artificial gravity. How did you do that, Dr. Weir? Because I don't think, does the Lewis and Clark have artificial gravity?
Yeah, because they're standing in there.
Oh, I thought that was like a field effect from the Event Horizon. I wasn't sure.
No, they're standing.
This movie's strong point is not science.
No.
They're not clicking the shoes and they're turning red like, The Expanse. It's like they don't have gravity. Well, until they click their shoes, because it's a lot easier to film after you click your shoes. They're just doing wire work all the
time. Which I heard trivia said like that was the first time, because they do that here, the whole click your hero gravity boots thing. But again, they just do that to save money because they don't have to try to film gravity, and that's been a thing in sci-fi. But I'm not sure. I read trivia said it was first here, but it's like has to have existed in other things first. But I don't know.
It depends on what kind of See, this is more of that age of gritty sci-fi
Yeah.
Because like Star Wars, it's just they didn't care because they have magic technology that's thousands of years old. They don't need to address the gravity thing in Star Wars. Star Trek, artificial gravity. That's
Yeah.
just they leave it there. But this is like we're almost at the cusp of mastering that stuff, but we don't have it yet. So we do have to make like accommodations to like some reality, but then we can say we have an artificial black hole machine, which is like, okay,
Yeah, yeah. That
now
means that means you're screwing with gravity anyway. So the idea of artificial gravity isn't too far flung from that.
yeah, now we've left the port.
Um, and then I think I wrote down Miller just says, "What happened here, Doctor?" And of course that's he's like, "I don't know, man." Justin's like catatonic or something. He's not moving or talking. He's just unblinking, staring up on an operating table. Cooper and Weir are arguing about whether the core is open because like Weir's like it wasn't open, like that's not how it works. It's like, dude, I saw black liquid. He came out of it. He went into the core.
Yeah, that's the Richard Jones, the rescue tech.
Yeah,
He's like the comic relief / other stand-in for reality in this.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing?
Well, see, the thing actually I came to appreciate with this movie is I remember these people just being dumb and dying stupidly, but really that only happens to like two people. Everyone else are really trying to stay alive. Like they're not dying like the Friday 13th teenagers. Like here, they're trying to stay alive. Now some of them do die in stupid ways, but you know that's because you're making a horror movie, I guess. So.
Yeah, you have to have that because if everyone beats the demon,
Yeah,
like not really. Well, it's a horror movie with no death.
What's in the core? Asks Miller, and then he takes Stark and Miller to the core to explain like the core. Now it creates a black hole. We got Peters watching over Justin, and she's looking at crew videos of the Event Horizon. And she keeps hearing something weird that's like I can't remember. It's like scratching or something like that. And then she starts hallucinating her kid with like sores all over the kid's legs.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden she's like starts screaming and like I forget like EJ comes up and is like, "What's wrong?" It's like, and then she looks back and the kid's gone. She's like, "I just saw my kid," which I kind of like because everyone sees something and they all gather together. It's like, "Hey, I saw some weird shit." It's like, "Me too." So I like that they just all admit like, "Oh, we all saw something weird." It's not. It's usually in these types of movie, it's like they saw something weird and then just like they keep it to themselves.
Yeah,
and then it eventually kills them all.
Which you would never do in real life. Like if I was at work and I like saw some horrible image of something happen to somebody I care about, better believe me, people are gonna know. It's like, well, you're nuts, Nathan. Nobody saw that. It's like, well, no, I'm not nuts, and I did see that. Now, if I need to go to the doctor and get checked out, maybe I did hallucinate. But then when other people come tell me that, it's like, yeah, fuck this, we're out of this. No, we must keep producing. It's like we do keep producing.
Get these ghosts to work for you.
Yeah, the ghosts will work for free. They just need you to sacrifice your family to them. And a lot of those guys would queue up to sacrifice their families to ghosts as long as they got that promotion. Anyway.
Then we show Smith who's working nonstop on the Lewis and Clark because he doesn't even want to step on the Event Horizon.
He hasn't been on the Lewis and Clark yet. He has no intention of doing it. He's the rational actor there. He's like, yep, I'm with Smithy. I mean, one of those cigarettes. We're covering this hole and we're getting out of here.
And then Weir goes into like the computer duct. It's a really cool looking duct room of they just put a bunch of circuit boards on the wall. They lit it green. It looks really cool. And like I feel like nobody's really done this since, even though it's like it was apparently really cheap to make and looked really cool, but no one's really done it since.
Probably is one of those things that like doesn't look good with digital photography anymore.
Yeah, maybe.
It could be. I don't know. It looked really cool. It's like another thing that this movie gets right. It's like, yeah, that's a scary computer bank to have to go and like, well, I'm crawling in here to service this. What could go wrong? It's like, it looks like everything, but good luck.
Yeah. And then the lights keep going in and out, and then the Weir is like hearing his wife, and then he sees his wife.
Now, remind you, every time he sees her, she has no eyes.
Yeah.
And not that they are not present. It's like they look like they were ripped out.
Yeah. Which apparently, I guess they put like foggy contact lenses, and they thought that looked stupid, so then they just CGI'd out her eyes.
Yeah,
It's like that looks scary. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that
better.
does look scary.
I mean, there's a
It's
whole.
bad enough to dream about your dead wife. It's even worse to see her with her eyes torn out and she's interacting with you. It's like, boy.
and there's like that happens the rest of the movie. There's a whole thing about people ripping out their eyes. So it's like,
Yeah.
Well,
The eyes are the window to the soul. This is all this religious crap. And I say religious crap because of the way it's presented. It's like, ooh, the message is delivered in Latin. It's like, oh, I'm glad in the future they're speaking languages that have been dead for over 1,000 years, as we sit. And then we have the church, like the cathedral. And I mean, anyone who's done an in-depth YouTube thing on this knows about all the religious imagery in here. And religious imagery is cool, except when it becomes like, just overblown garbage. Then it's annoying.
We have Miller seeing a burning man who appears out of the pool under the core.
Yeah.
And then here's where the team gather and just admit to all the hallucinations they're seeing. Although I think Weir's like, no, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, Weir's still like, no, you guys are crazy. This ship's great. What are you talking about? This ship is, I want to have sex with this ship. It's so good. You guys are just out of control here. And he's always doing this. He's like looking at he always looks at the camera like a dog who's trying to hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
This
is supposed to be
cue that he's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, this is supposed to be his heel turn, but like, I still feel like Sam Neill has enough gravitas that you don't want to see him become evil for no reason.
Right.
It's like, again, that's the thing. If you if this movie had 30 more minutes and you worked on that better, maybe it worked. But still, I don't know. And the thing is, like, the ship's the villain, but then they needed to make a person a villain by the end of the movie, and that doesn't work. So
they didn't have to do that.
Yeah. Peters is watching Justin, but then he just disappears, which is a nice scene because like she's just pacing back and forth, and the camera's following her, and then like on one of the passes, like Justin's gone, and she's like, "Wait a minute." I think she's also like reviewing footage of like the old Event Horizon crew.
Which is conveniently scrambled and has to be gone through step by step over hours to build to another penultimate scene in the scene in this movie that everyone knows.
Then there's a pounding, and she runs off. They lock themselves on the bridge, and then something attempts to beat its way through, and here's where Weird gets even weirder because he's like, "Hey, let it through," and they're like, and like Stark's about to break his arm. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, he's just walking towards the door like an idiot with his hand out, like, "Let it in." What? No.
And then Justin puts himself in the airlock without an evac suit.
That's one of the best scenes in this movie, by the way. This scene is how you build tension.
Justin like tells something of like showing him the darkness inside him, and then he activates the airlock to get released, and then he just seems to return to normal, and he's like, as all the pain and fear rush into him, he's like, what's going on?
And of course DJ's providing because DJ, the Jason Isaacs character, he's a grim kind of weird guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh God, he's gonna tear it inside out when that airlock opens. Like, he can hear you, DJ. They don't say that, but
yeah,
because it goes on for like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
like because he says weird stuff in a weird voice. It sounds modulated. It's like, I don't like what I see. It shows you things. What's that? Because Kathleen Quinlan's trying to chalk it down. It's like the darkness inside me, and it's like, huh? Oh, that's kind of weird. Then he hits that button, and it's like a 30-second countdown. And of course, they can't override the door. And one of the few things that makes perfect sense in this movie is like you have two airlock doors, and you can't open them both simultaneously because the whole ship would just explosively decompress. So he's basically stuck. He's going to get shot out into space. This movie doesn't go full Outland on that, but it builds tension slowly because you see all the veins in his arms popping out as, because he's approaching zero pressure.
And Miller's like talking to him on his intercom. He's like, I need you to expel all the air in your body, because he's trying to save him as he gets ejected out the airlock. And he expels all the air in his body by screaming in pain. And so he gets him. And this is one thing I completely forgot. Because this is why I actually kind of respected the movies. Like, technically, by the end of this movie, Justin is still alive. He's in an incredibly bad state, but he's still alive. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, they don't just forget him.
but they put him in, the back to tank essentially. They put him in the
Yeah.
grav couch or whatever. And so he's basically out for the rest of the movie. Miller's being haunted by a former. I wrote crewman, but I don't know if it's just somebody like some guy. He talks about like a guy who got caught in a gravity fire, which they make it sound like horrifying here. Which like it just appears out of nowhere and goes where it wants.
It is scary. I remember when they learned about it on the Skylab station. They actually did experiments about what if we had a fire in space. And so what they did was in a lab in a contained environment, they like lit pieces of paper on fire, and it scared the crap out of them because it just floats around like little balls, and that would spread the fire in 360 degrees. And it's like, oh wow, we can't have fire on the space station. And they figured out, well, okay, but there's a quick answer to this. It's like put your helmet on, suck all the air out of the room. It's like, then the fire dies. Fire needs oxygen just like you do. So.
And then DJ's like, I think he's like trying to translate some of the stuff. So he's getting like, I wrote down liberate tu teme ex feris, which means save yourself from hell.
Yeah.
This is what the video or the audio from the Event Horizon crew is just saying into like the black box for no reason. Well, I guess it's because the captain like knew Latin or something. So apparently
because when they were normal before they activated the gravity drive, he says something in Latin.
Yeah. And then afterwards, Hell's like, Latin's cool. Let's make him speak it.
Oh, medieval, yeah.
The team prepped to repressurize Lois and Clark, but it still has a leak. Peters and Stark find video files of the Event Horizon crew like mutilating themselves and killing and eating each other, and apparently they're also having sex with each other all at the same time. A lot of this stuff got
like twisting his mouth.
Yeah,
like it's really weird, and I guess that's extended in this secret extra cut that exists somewhere.
Yeah,
and it's like, I don't want to see. It was very effective though. I like that they did it. It was effective. Yeah. It's like, that's bad. We don't know why they're doing it, but that doesn't look like fun.
And basically, as soon as they hit like stop on the movie player, Miller just goes, "Fuck this shit, we're out."
Yeah.
So the voice of reason again. I mean, Smith was already there, but now Miller's on board. It's like, okay, we're getting out of this thing.
Yeah, there's no reason to stay there.
Oh yeah, this is like, this is the weirdest thing because like. We're like kind of like says like you can't leave, she won't let you, and then he says like I am home, and then We're like skulks into the darkness, and this is his complete heel turn for no reason.
Yeah.
So now he's one with the ship and he wants to, I don't know, he's not even like, it's like he doesn't have to kill anybody. He just wants to take people back to the hell dimension or whatever. We don't know. It's like,
this is why this movie, like I said, after the guy tries to throw himself out of the airlock and they were finally reveal the video, then it falls apart.
Yeah. We have Peters and Smith. They're in like the core room. And they're just grabbing a bunch of CO2 scrubbers. But then Peter's like her hallucination of her kid like shows up, and then she chases her hallucination, and then she ends up falling to her death. And this is like the dumbest death in the movie.
Yeah.
It's like it's a hallucination.
Yeah. You've named them as hallucinations. This is not a new thing. But you're gonna chase and I guess the original scene with her son was not only did it because her son has some kind of sickness.
Yeah,
he's a sick kid in the character's real life, and I guess in the scene where she sees him, like they had maggots on the legs too.
Yeah,
but they decided that like it's too much. We gotta cut that back. So.
Yeah. There's a lot of things in this movie where it was just like that's too much. Yeah. because there's a scene later on. I will get to that, but and then Weir makes his way to the core. He sees Peters, and he has like remorse for like half a second, and then he starts hallucinating Claire, and then we see it's a flashback where we see Claire kill herself, and he's like trying to apologize to her. It's like I'll do less work. I'll be home more often, and then she shows up again like naked and no eyes. It's like, we have such wonderful things to show you, and like just stealing it completely from Hellraiser.
Yeah, it's like, why is your throat open with those weird things? You know?
And then she pushes her fingers into his eyes. Then we cut to reality, and he's just digging his eyes out. I mean, really, he's just doing this, but
Yeah.
he's because I think in the video you see the captain of the old Event Horizon crew, like he's holding his eyes out on his palm, so it's like, okay, there's a thing with ripping out your eyes. So
Yeah, because what you're seeing is so horrible, you just want to tear out your ocular membranes.
Yeah,
which was a lot less painful ways to disable them, folks.
You have eyelids.
Yeah, do this. They don't receive any more information. But it's not as dramatic. If he was just sitting there in the chair with his eyes closed while his crew was mouth fisting each other and tearing each other apart, it might be more effective. It's like, it's not real. It's not real. And then he breaks into Latin.
Then they discover there's a missing explosive on the bridge, or like not the bridge, the like connection bridgeway. That's what I mean.
The walkway.
Yeah, the walkway. And so they suspect like Weir put it on the Lois and Clark, and then Smith finds it just in time for him to like have like, oh no. It's like, I worked so hard to fix the ship, and then it blows up and kills Smith. So yeah, which is sad, but it's it's what happens when you got to put everybody in the worst state. So but I do like that they have the ship blow up, but Cooper's still alive. He's like floating off in some debris, but he's gonna make his way back to the ship. And again, like, just forget that they're in the atmosphere of a planet.
Yeah.
So Cooper blows his tanks to make his way back to the Event Horizon. DJ fights with Weir, and they make it kind of a setup, like, so yeah, Weir can handle himself, and then he's just immediately Weir suddenly has superhuman strength and just grabs him by the throat, throws him, and the next time we see him, he's just like flayed open, and like he's just like left hanging in the med bay, which they do have a character thing where like he has like a scar mark on his chest from some previous surgery, so this is supposed to be like, his greatest fear has come to kill him, but it's just done all of a sudden, so it doesn't work as well as it should. I mean, like, the elements are there, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, we're falling apart rapidly at this point.
Although, like, this is another one where it's like they went too far, and the original idea was like DJ was supposed to still be alive, and like all his organs were supposed to be like on the table, but like still attached to his body, and then he has to get Miller to kill him because he's just in too much pain. It's like, oh yeah, that would have been crazy.
Yeah, that would have been a little nuts.
So that being the end of Act 2, because it's like, they're at their lowest. They lost their ship, a couple of people died, so we have Act 3. We got Miller grabs a nail gun that they use to like patch up the Lois and Clark.
Space nail gun.
Yeah. He finds Stark knocked out but like alive, which Stark never has any hallucinations. So
no,
I don't know.
She sleeps. She has the dreamless sleep of the truly insane. Nothing really bothers Stark.
Or she's without guilt. Yeah, she's either without guilt because she doesn't believe in guilt. She is just like a sociopath, or she just doesn't have guilt. He gives her smelling salts, and she wakes up, and then suddenly Weir has the nail gun because he put the nail gun down, because Miller put the nail gun down to wake up Stark. And this is where Weir reveals himself. He has his eyes torn out, but now they're like sewn together. He had to fix that wound.
Yeah.
And here's where he talks about
yarn. Where'd you find yarn on the Event Horizon? Is that hell yarn?
Here he talks about the Event Horizon, how it found like a dimension of chaos. And now like Weir is enchanted with it, so it's like we got to go back. We got to bring everybody back to the chaos dimension.
Yeah, it worked out so well the first time. That's the thing with that's my problem with evil in movies and TVs and a lot of books. Even it's like evil's always dumb with like very nebulous goals. It's like no,
Yeah.
I like screw tape letters evil where there's like there's a goal, there's an administration, there's a way of doing it instead of just evil for the sake of evil. It's like that doesn't really propagate very well. That's how mushrooms live, but mushrooms don't plan, they just propagate.
um and then Cooper like hits the front window of the Event Horizon. It's like, I made it. And then Weir fires the gun at Cooper outside, so it breaks the window on the ship. So now you got the you gotta have it's space, so you gotta have that whole like everyone's getting sucked out into space scene.
Yeah.
Which Weir does get sucked out in space and presumably dies.
Yeah.
Miller like braces the closing. There's like the door's trying to close, but he has to go save Stark first to get her behind the door, and he braces it with a halogen bar, which I just learned about from Untested because Adam Savage was talking about it, which it's a fireman's tool that has like has a bunch of different things on it. It's got like a pry bar, it's got like a hook, and then like a spike on it. And if you use it, you can use it in a bunch of different ways to just pry open doors and all this other magical stuff. That's what firemen use as a really simple tool to just like, hey, we need to get into this thing. We don't care what property damage we does because this place is on fire.
Yeah, this is not we're not a subtle tool. I watched one of the Forge and Fire shows. I watched people had to forge their own halogen bars.
Huh.
And they set them to different. They had actual New York City firemen because it show's filmed in New York. And it's like, yeah, we're going to use the hell out of these, and they tried different, or they went through different scenarios, and most of the guys did pretty good.
Huh.
But forging one of those is like crazy. It's like this big, huge thing.
Yeah.
It's got all these features on it. It's like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I looked up. I was like, how much does that cost? It's like, oh, well, I think one was like $300, but all the other ones were like $1,300. It's like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I've wanted one ever since then, but same thing. It's like, well, I can't justify this.
Yeah, I'm not going to use this. It's very cool looking and useful, but I'm never going to use it.
Throw that in the trunk.
So Cooper makes his way back into the Event Horizon because he's still outside. The black hole drive is set to go off, so Miller goes to set all the explosives. So they want to blow the bridge away from the core, so they can let the core do its thing and be away from it. So because they never really tell you like what the activation distance is, but apparently if they're not attached to the core, it won't take them into the black hole. So
yeah, again, we get a little loose on science.
Yeah, by this time we don't really care, but
yeah, it's like, oh, we're fighting hell. Okay,
at this time, I'm just like tallying the problems because I'm disappointed in the movie. So we're on the deck of the crew, the bridge, and the crew compartment starts flooding with blood, and this is where they get their shining scene, which it looks really cool. There's like a green light going on the top of the rooms in the Event Horizon, and then it starts filling with blood. And I get the effect was so simple is that they just had red tissue paper that they dragged across there to simulate blood.
Nice.
Which means like all you had to do was like, okay, drag this tissue paper, it's red, and then you just put a gurgling sound, and then your mind does the rest. It's like, well, obviously that's blood.
Yeah.
I mean, they do cut to a tank that's green, and they do fill it with a red liquid, and then they blow it up, and then apparently that was one of the most dangerous stunts in the movie because like that was a lot of water, and you had a person in front of it.
Yeah, and you're blowing it up, and water doesn't compress, so all that force is being transferred into that person.
And here we have Miller gets chased into the core by his hallucination, which is the man on fire, and then his hallucination morphs into Weir, which I guess was a later change because I guess Weir just got sucked out into space and died, and this was just a battle with his hallucination. But here they make Weir, they basically turn Weir into Pinhead at this point, but he just has a bunch of scars and he's on fire and naked. So
yeah, his that guy's Miller's hallucination was named Edmund Corrick, and he was a shipmate from a ship called the Goliath. None of that is ever mentioned, but
No.
trivia.
Yeah.
I think Miller does talk about I watched a man burn on the Goliath, but that was it.
Yeah. So they fight around in the core.
Dangerous core fight. Don't fall on the spikes that are everywhere, big and small spikes.
Yeah, and fight the pool of water, which I'm sure is just water.
Yeah. Oh, it's coolant for the core. Oh yeah, what is it? Is it non-carcinogenic to cool a black hole machine? Was it just regular antifreeze?
Why do these pools not have covers on them if people are meant to operate in here?
Yeah.
But apparently Weird needs to take everybody into the hell dimension for reasons.
Yeah.
Miller has like the trigger device to set to blow the bridge away, and then he gets it finally, and he blows it up to kind of sacrifice himself. Even though they kind of just imply he dies here, he actually doesn't blow up. It's like presumably him and Weir are going into the hell dimension, and Miller is going to regret surviving that, presumably. But we don't.
Or he's going to get sucked out the hole, where because they just blew up the causeway between the two parts of the ship. So we don't know.
I mean, I could imagine. I think there's a doorway that could shut off there. I don't know.
Oh yeah, there is a door there. I have seen it because it's one of those weird spherical sphincter-like doors that have alien and other things that kind of closes like that.
So yeah, so the back half of the ship goes in the black hole fold,
which is kind of cool because it's like you see the black hole form and then the ship just gets sucked down into it. It's kind of a neat.
Yeah, because
you're moving away from it while it's happening.
Yeah, and the black hole is like still inside the atmosphere of Neptune, so it is.
Yeah.
just a cool look. We have 72 days later, a rescue team comes aboard. Stark gets let out, and here she has a nightmare of Weir because he's a part of the rescue crew. Then they cut to reality, and she's still freaking out. But then Cooper's there trying to console her. And then you still see Justin in the tank, but they haven't let him out. He's still incapacitated.
Yeah, because they're like, "Oh, this guy's a mess" or something.
Yeah. And that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's when I was throwing shit at the wall about 20 years ago. Oh God, more than that. Yeah. 25 years ago. Yeah, so this is, like I said, one of the best half a movie you'll ever see.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was.
I mean, it's not even that. It's just like this is a movie that touches on, again, I'll reiterate, a lot of things I like. Spooky abandoned places, in this case a spaceship, just great set design, kind of like stuff that is designed to look weird and you can kind of appreciate it. There's no actual real reason it needs to look that way, but if it looked all white and Star Trek, it would not be as scary or as convincing. So yeah, this has a cool dark industrial look. Again, the movie builds tension well. It's well acted. These people don't break character no matter how dumb it gets. They're still they're still actors. We're still getting paid. And from what I understand, is a miserable shoot too. So
yeah.
Everyone.
When they set the core on fire, that sounded like really dangerous because they literally just set that set on fire.
Yeah, just fire in the water and stuff.
And I forget, there's like the scene where like Miller jumps out of the way of like a flamethrower that gets shot at him, and they said like that was super dangerous. We almost set Lawrence Fishburne on fire.
With a real flamethrower. I've seen the production still. I mean, not a flamethrower like that. It was more of a propane flamethrower. It wasn't like a sticky gas flamethrower, but it was compressed gas lit on fire, shot at a guy. So, not fun. Could be dangerous.
Yeah, apparently, something with the flamethrower that got loose when they fired it, and things got weird, and that's what set the set on fire or whatever.
Well, because it didn't stop. They couldn't shut it off. Just had to let it run out of its fuel, which, like, well, that doesn't sound too bad, but when you realize, no, it's just throwing curtains of fire everywhere. I'm basically on a plastic set with paint and, a bunch of ketones and adhesives holding everything together. It's like, that stuff's going to burn fast and hot.
This movie, it's listed as costing $60 million, which would have been like a pretty high budget movie at that time. but I don't know if that's like including like the like advertising budget with it. Sometimes that gets included with, sometimes it doesn't. Um,
Well, this movie was rushed into production because they thought the Titanic release was going to correspond with it. So it's like they had to get it out early for that reason. Then the Titanic release, I don't know if you remember, the Titanic release was delayed
yeah,
by quite a bit. So yeah, that's they just wanted to get this one out there. Not that they thought this was going to compete with the Titanic,
no.
but they wanted people to have other movies to
Well, yeah,
see.
like Paramount at this time just didn't have a lot on offering, and so like put this through, and they just rushed this into production.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how the budget's necessarily getting tabulated, but like the way the director talks about it, it makes it sound like it was a rush production done very cheaply, but they did spend the money on these sets and stuff, so that stuff is where a lot of the money went. It's like yeah, we got the best
the
people
actors.
building, yeah, but these weren't necessarily like these weren't people commanding 20 million a movie or anything like that.
No.
But still, because like I think comparatively, like The Matrix, which came out 2 years later, was a $63 million movie. When I'd say like they're not necessarily. I guess in some ways they are comparable, but like Matrix definitely looks like a bigger, more action filled movie than what.
Yeah, you know how you compare this to the Matrix? It's like the Matrix had a lot of good writing in it all the way through. This did not. This is what and this was the same year that like Gattaca, Contact, and The Fifth Element came out, and Starship Troopers. So this was a crowded year for this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And don't forget The Postman, that came out around this time.
But I'm not sure if this necessarily like. There's a lot of things that like this influenced. So this kind of has become a cult movie because people have like over time. It's like, oh yeah, like there's stuff to like about this movie, and there is.
Yeah, there is.
But like Dead Space, this was heavily influenced on the Dead Space video games.
Yes, I can see that.
Which are
I
very
like those too. I played those.
which have like similar kind of like gothic, weird industrial design and stuff, and people fighting with weapons that aren't weapons; they're like industrial tools.
Yeah.
And that series was huge. It made like billions of dollars. And like I think we talked about Sphere, and I was wondering like if this kind of stole thunder from Sphere, where it's like there's something weird and like it's all gonna kill us. But I don't know if that was it. But because this movie didn't necessarily do that well at the box office. But I don't know. There's also like stories about like executives at Paramount apologizing like, oh, this would have been a better movie if we actually believed in it. It's like, yeah, when you just made a movie to meet a release date, yeah, obviously you're not going to believe in it too much. So
Yeah.
Also,
yeah, it's interesting. This also like there was a little alien influence in this. I mean, more than a little, but
yeah,
there was even their uniforms. I don't know if you'd have to like deep trivia on this, but apparently like Weir's Patch, like he's an Australian in this movie. I think he is in real life, or New Zealand. I'm not sure. One of the two.
Yeah.
Now he's from New Zealand. Like it has the Aborigine flag in the corner
instead of the Union
Jack.
Yeah.
And the American flags have 55 stars in this, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I guess they said, I think it was the commentary, but they said like that was kind of like leeway they give to the actors. It's like kind of create a backstory for your character, and apparently like those little patches were kind of like their way of doing that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, read into it. Like, what is it? Like, we don't know. We didn't write it. We let the actors do that.
It's interesting. The British characters had European Union flags.
Oh yeah.
Which is like, well, apparently that didn't hold out for the British characters.
It is 2047. They got time to go back. But yeah, it's but yeah, I did appreciate this movie more this time around, because I remember it just being completely dumb, and this time it's like, well, no, people are mostly trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
Rather than how I remembered it, just people just dying stupidly. And
yeah, this is not. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and I also completely forgot that Justin technically survives, which is like, you figured he definitely would not survive. So.
Well, so that's where the movie teases you, because it gives you hope. It's like, here's a guy who did the worst thing possible to himself, yet lived. And then it's like, no, but everyone else is going to. What's the guy? And Weir's not going to profit by aligning with hell, or he is. I don't know. Maybe he's the king of hell now. Who knows? But no, this movie's not. This is one of those movies like it's not dumb. It's not. It's not even what I'd call a B movie. It is just a movie that it's like they took the script and like tore the. It's okay. We got to compress all this into that, and that was the problem.
Yeah. But I think this is definitely a testament to like British film production because there's like some A+ stuff going on here. So.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie. I mean, to a point.
Yeah.
It's this is like I have a theory about movies where black holes are the centerpiece, but that kind of got displaced by
Interstellar.
Interstellar, kind of like, well, no, that was an excellent movie, and the black hole was a big part of it. But up until this point, all the movies that have a black hole in them have been like, there's elements of them that are really good and elements of them that are really bad. It's like Disney's the black hole. Visually is a cool looking movie. I mean, if you just like shot exterior scenes and stuff, it's like, yeah, this is great. But yeah, once you get into the story, it's like, oh boy, yeah, this is bad. We're looking for habitable life on other planets. What kind of dialogue is that? How'd that slip through? But yeah, that's and then what was the other black hole movie that was like half a good movie? I'm trying to think. It evades me. But yeah, there hasn't been a good spot.
There's another movie that's kind of it looks so similar to it, but I've never seen it. It's called Pandorum. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, that's actually a good movie. It's like this. It's people wake up on a spaceship and crazy stuff's going on, but it's just all high speed action.
Oh, okay.
There's not like a lot of the story they present is like, that's kind of weird. Why would they do this? Who's doing this? But Pandorum's a lot. It's a better movie than this.
Okay.
As far as like story and stuff, and some of the elements of it are a little weird, and the conclusions they come to are like, well, that's crazy, but it's such nonstop action. You're almost like, yeah, cool, this is great. It's one of those movies where you don't really stop and think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
for some reason I was always reluctant to see that movie.
Now watch it. It's fun. I mean, again, if you're building tiger tracks, it's fun. It's one of those movies you're gonna watch and like, yeah,
it's a background movie.
Yeah, I have a lot of those in my life.
Well, if you like what you heard, and how couldn't you can find us at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect, or you can go to verhoeveneffect.com. It'll take you to the same spot. You can rate our podcast. You can rate whatever you want on your platform of choice, but remember, like, the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. We have listener support at verhoeveneffect.com, where you can support us on a monthly stipend, either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month. You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory and watch both this show and that show live and unedited. And you can find t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.